Have you ever been told that fish is always healthy, no matter the kind? Most of us grew up believing that fish is one of the best proteins we can eat, especially as we get older. Doctors, magazines, and even diet books have repeated for decades that fish equals longevity, heart protection, and sharper memory. But here's the surprising truth I want to share with you today. Not all fish are created equal. In fact, there are at least 10 types of fish that people over 60 should avoid completely, or eat very rarely, because instead of protecting your health, they may actually harm it. Some are loaded with mercury that can damage your brain and nerves. Some are raised in dirty, chemical-filled environments. Some have almost no nutritional value compared to other options, and others are caught in ways that destroy our oceans. And the scariest part? Many of these fish are the exact ones sold cheaply in supermarkets or restaurants, making them look like a good deal for your wallet, but a terrible deal for your health. If you stay with me until the end of this video, you will not only know which 10 fish to avoid, but you'll also have clear, healthier alternatives to choose instead. And I'll give you a teaser for our next video, which is about 10 vegetables that can actually be dangerous for diabetics. You won't want to miss that one. Before we dive in, let me gently remind you to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Every week, I bring you natural, science-based health tips for women and men over 50, and my mission is to help you stay energized, independent, and vibrant for decades to come. By subscribing, you make sure you never miss one of these practical, life-changing tips. Now let's get into it. Let's start with swordfish. This big, impressive-looking fish is unfortunately one of the most dangerous choices for seniors. The problem is mercury. Swordfish is at the top of the food chain in the ocean, which means it eats smaller fish, and those smaller fish have eaten other fish, so all that mercury accumulates in its body over years. By the time it reaches your plate, swordfish has one of the highest mercury levels of any fish. Mercury is a toxin that can damage your brain, your memory, your coordination, and even your balance. And as we age, our bodies are less efficient at detoxifying it. Studies show that mercury exposure is linked to cognitive decline and may increase the risk of dementia. For pregnant women, nursing mothers, and children, it's especially dangerous, and the FDA and EPA actually recommend avoiding it completely. For older men and women, even one portion per month is already considered risky. So if you see swordfish steaks on sale or on a restaurant menu, think twice. A safer, tastier alternative is wild-caught salmon or trout, which give you omega-3 fats without the toxic load. The second one is orange roughy. You might see this fish in restaurants or grocery stores under different names, and it sounds exotic and fancy. But here's what's rarely told. Orange roughy lives for decades, sometimes up to 150 years. That means, like swordfish, it has had plenty of time to accumulate mercury and other contaminants in its tissues. But it's not just a health issue. Orange roughy has been overfished to the point where it's now considered threatened in many parts of the world. Its slow growth means that populations take decades to recover. So every time people choose orange roughy, they're not only putting their own health at risk, but also contributing to a serious environmental problem. A good alternative is cod or haddock, which are lighter fish with much lower mercury levels and are more sustainable when caught responsibly. Number 3 is king mackerel. Now don't get me wrong, not all mackerel are bad. In fact, Atlantic mackerel is a fantastic choice, rich in omega-3 fats and very low in toxins. But king mackerel, the large variety found in tropical and subtropical waters, is another story. It has very high levels of mercury and often contains PCBs and dioxins, industrial pollutants that are linked to cancer risk and hormone disruption. This is one of those confusing cases where the name matters. If you're eating mackerel, make sure it's Atlantic or Pacific chub mackerel, not king mackerel. And if you're not sure, it's better to skip it altogether. A simple swap would be sardines, which are small, oily fish packed with omega-3s, calcium, and vitamin D, and because they're small, they don't accumulate toxins the same way. Next, we need to talk about tilefish. This is another top offender for mercury. In fact, tilefish has one of the very highest mercury levels of all fish sold in the US. The FDA recommends avoiding it completely, or at most limiting to one serving per month if you aren't eating any other high mercury fish. That's a big red flag. Mercury is not something you want building up in your body, especially as you age, when memory, balance, and energy are already more delicate. Better choices here are monkfish or snapper, which provide similar texture and flavor but are much safer for your nervous system. Now let's talk about Atlantic bluefin tuna, a fish many people think of when they order sushi. Bluefin tuna is a double problem. First, it's overfished almost to extinction in many areas, especially the Atlantic and Mediterranean. Second, it's loaded with mercury. And to make matters worse, the fishing methods used for bluefin, like longline and purse seining, often kill dolphins, turtles, and sharks by accident. It's one of the worst examples of unsustainable seafood. The good news is that not all tuna is bad. Yellowfin and skipjack tuna are much better choices. They're lower in mercury, reproduce faster, and are fished in more sustainable ways. So if you love tuna, stick to skipjack or light canned tuna instead of albacore or bluefin. Now, one that may surprise you: tilapia. Tilapia is one of the cheapest and most widely available fish in supermarkets. That's why so many families buy it. But here's the problem. Nutritionally, it doesn't deliver much. Compared to salmon or sardines, tilapia has very little omega-3 fatty acids, which are the main reason we eat fish in the first place. And because most tilapia is farmed in crowded conditions in countries with weak regulations, there are often concerns about antibiotics, chemicals, and poor quality feed. In other words, you're eating a protein with very little benefit and potential contamination. If you're going to spend money on fish, it's far better to choose wild salmon, trout, or even sardines, which give you real anti-inflammatory benefits. Tilapia simply doesn't measure up. The seventh fish to avoid is grouper. Grouper is popular in restaurants, especially in coastal areas. It's a firm, tasty fish, but here's the issue. Grouper lives a long life, which means it accumulates mercury and other toxins. It's also heavily overfished because of high demand. And one more shocking fact: grouper is one of the most commonly mislabeled fish. Studies have found that when you order grouper in a restaurant, it's often replaced with cheaper fish like pangasius or weakfish without you even knowing. That's called seafood fraud, and it's alarmingly common. So you may think you're paying for grouper, but you're really eating something totally different. A much better choice is snapper, which has a similar texture and flavor but is safer and more honest. Eighth on the list is farmed salmon. Now, I know this one will hurt a little, because salmon is often praised as one of the healthiest foods. And wild salmon truly is. But farmed salmon is a different story. Because they're raised in crowded pens, farmed salmon are prone to disease and parasites. To control this, farmers often use antibiotics and pesticides, which can end up in the fish you eat. On top of that, their diet is artificial, so their omega-3 content is lower than wild salmon. The pink color of farmed salmon often comes from added pigments, not natural diet. So while you may still get some benefit, it's far from the gold standard. If you want salmon, make sure it's wild-caught from Alaska or other certified sustainable sources. The difference in nutrition and purity is dramatic. The ninth one is shark. You may not eat shark every day, but it sometimes appears in restaurants or even in fish markets under other names. Shark is a terrible choice for both health and environmental reasons. Like swordfish, it's high in mercury, but even worse, many shark species are threatened or endangered because of overfishing. One cruel practice is called finning, where fishermen cut off the shark's fins and throw the animal back into the ocean alive, leaving it to die. It's devastating for ecosystems, because sharks are top predators that keep balance in the ocean. On top of that, shark meat often contains other toxins and is just not worth the risk. Skip shark entirely and go for safer fish like sardines, anchovies, or wild salmon. Finally, number 10. Eel. You might know it from sushi menus or certain traditional dishes. Eel populations are struggling worldwide because of overfishing and habitat destruction. On top of that, eels accumulate high levels of contaminants like PCBs and flame retardants, which are industrial chemicals linked to cancer and hormone disruption. In places like New Jersey, Authorities recommend eating eel no more than once a year because of contamination. That alone should tell us how serious the risk is. A safer alternative with similar richness is catfish, as long as it's farmed responsibly, or again, salmon and trout. Now, after hearing all this, you might feel a little overwhelmed. You might even be thinking, well, what fish is left for me to eat? Don't worry, the goal here is not to scare you away from fish altogether. Fish can be one of the healthiest foods you can put on your plate. But the secret is choosing the right ones. Safer, healthier options include wild salmon, sardines, anchovies, trout, cod, haddock, and Atlantic mackerel. These give you the brain-boosting, heart-protective omega-3s without loading your body with mercury or chemicals. And by choosing responsibly, you're also helping the planet. And here's the good news. By avoiding just these 10 fish, you dramatically reduce your risk of mercury exposure, lower your chance of eating hidden contaminants, and make sure the money you spend on seafood is actually giving you back real health benefits. Think of it as upgrading your choices. It's not about restriction, it's about empowerment. You're still free to enjoy delicious, satisfying fish dishes, but now you can do it with peace of mind. So let me ask you, which of these 10 fish surprised you the most? Was it tilapia, the cheap and common one? Or farmed salmon, the one many of us thought was always healthy? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so share in the comments below. And remember, this is not about perfection. It's about making smarter, safer choices most of the time. Even small changes add up to big benefits over the years. Before we close, let me remind you once again to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. By subscribing, you're joining a community of people who are serious about aging with vitality, preventing disease naturally, and making practical, science-based decisions for their health. Each week I share tips, strategies, and food swaps that can literally change the way you feel day by day. So hit that button now, and you'll always be one step ahead. And as promised, the next video you won't want to miss is about 10 vegetables that can actually be dangerous for diabetics. Yes, you heard me right. Vegetables. Some of the very foods we're told are always safe and healthy may actually spike blood sugar and make diabetes harder to control. That video will be an eye-opener, and it's the perfect next step after what we talked about today. So stay tuned, and I'll see you there.